الله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم رسولا ونبيا. ربي أعوذ بك من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بك ربي أن يحضرون ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Inshallah, we're going to pick up with the Prophet ﷺ's legendary military empire, the era of Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan, and we arrived at page number 317, 15.9, Kufa. At the time, Uthman was sworn in as a Khalifa or as the Khalifa. Kufa itself was governed by Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah, who had been appointed towards the end of Umar radiallahu anhu's Khilafat. Uthman replaced him with Saad ibn Abi Waqqas. Sources mention that the reason for his dismissal was an order from Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu himself. He had commanded his successor to appoint Saad, whom he had dismissed from Kufa in the last days of his Khilafat. He confirmed, "I did not dismiss him because he had done something evil or treacherous, and I command the next Khalifa to employ him." Saad became the governor of Kufa, and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was appointed together with him. Saad led the prayer and commanded the troops, while Ibn Mas'ud took care of the state treasurer. Saad ibn Abi Waqqas was experienced in ruling in Kufa and knew everything about its people, its people's outposts and troops. Among the things that Saad did during his position as governor of Kufa in Uthman's time was visiting and organizing the affairs of some border outposts of Kufa sub-region in the 25th year after the Hijriya. This included such regions as Rai. He also appointed some new rulers and employees to Hamadan and its surrounding regions. Not long after Saad had been appointed as governor, a disagreement occurred between him and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. The latter was in charge of the state treasury, and Saad had been borrowing money, or he had borrowed money from the state treasury. And they had agreed that he would be paying back on a certain date. Saad did not repay their loan on time, so Ibn Mas'ud went to claim it from him. A dispute broke out between the two, and the people gathered. When Uthman heard about this, he decided to dismiss Saad and retain Ibn Mas'ud. At-Tabari stated that the punishment for Saad was his dismissal, while the punishment for Ibn Mas'ud was his retaining the position. This story tells us something about the commendable character of these two companions. It indicates that Saad did not have enough money and thus had no choice but to borrow some from the state treasury. We can also note the dedication of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud to the preservation of the Muslims' wealth, for he insisted on receiving the repayment of the loan from Saad, the ruler of Kufa himself. Saad's governorship lasted for 1 year and 1 month. After his dismissal, Uthman appointed Al-Walid ibn Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt to rule Kufa. Prior to this, Al-Walid had worked as military commander for Abu Bakr in Jordan and had ruled the Arabs in Mesopotamia for Umar. He was a commander in Kufa towards the end of Umar's reign and in the beginning of Uthman's radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. Therefore, he had experience of Kufa, along with its army, military post, and other affairs. Prior to his appointment as governor, the righteously guided Caliph often preferred those who were experienced with regard to the region in which they wanted to appoint a new governor. Thus, it was only natural for Uthman to choose Al-Walid ibn Uqba for Kufa. Many early and contemporary writers have dismissed this appointment, accusing Uthman of choosing him only because he was his maternal brother. This, of course, is sheer slander. Towards the beginning of Al-Walid's governorship, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud worked with him as treasurer, but then they disagreed on something concerning the state funds. The matter was brought to Uthman's attention, and he deemed it best to dismiss Abdullah ibn Mas'ud and place the people and the treasury under Al-Walid. This, he believed, was in the general interest of the people. Al-Walid ibn Uqba remained in Kufa and was loved by the people. He had no gate in his house and would receive people throughout the day to solve their problems and perform his duties. This went on until a group of people began to harbor a grudge against him because of the stern stance he took in the case of Ibn al-Haysuman al-Khuzai, who had been killed by some youth in Kufa. On Uthman's orders, Al-Walid had carried out legal retaliation on these criminals. Their custodians and relatives had been spreading rumors about him ever since, in a serious attempt to find fault with him. In the end, these embittered people managed to patch together a case against Al-Walid and accused him of drinking wine, which was why he was officially punished and dismissed. This was exactly what these plotters had sought. After Al-Walid was fired, Uthman sent a message to the people of Kufa: from the slave of Allah, Uthman, the commander of the faithful, to the people of Kufa, peace be with you. I appointed Al-Walid ibn Uqba as your governor, and he proved to be a dynamic and firm ruler. He was one of the best of his people. I told him to take good care of you, but did not tell you to take good care of him when he gave you his best and spared you from evil, and you could not find any apparent fault in him. You began to find fault in his private life. Allah knows best about you and him. In any case, I have now sent Saeed ibn al-As as your governor. It should be noted that many Kufans were actually angry because of Al-Walid's removal. It was 30 years after the Hijriya when Uthman replaced Al-Walid with Saeed ibn al-As, who was at the time living in Medina. He headed to Kufa. So now it's Saeed ibn al-As, accompanied by a delegation of Kufans who had complained to Uthman about Al-Walid. Among them was Al-Ashtar al-Nakhai. After his arrival in Kufa, Saeed ascended the pulpit, praised Allah, and declared, "By Allah, I did not want to be sent to you, but when I was commanded, I had no choice but to obey. Conflict has raised its head. I swear by Allah that I will strike its face until it becomes tamed or overpowers me, and I will not compromise myself today." Then he got down from the pulpit. As we can see from this speech, Saeed was aware of the beginning of the conflict, whose signs were manifest in Kufa prior to his appointment. Thus, he threatened its supporters and expressed his determination to suppress it. During his tenure, he managed to organize everything in his province. He appointed commanders and governors to various border and regions belonging to Kufa, and he regulated their affairs as well. He launched successful expeditions. It was in the 33 years after the Hijriya that turmoil raised its head in Kufa. We shall discuss this in a more detail later, inshallah. Al-Ashtar al-Nakhai led a conspiracy against Saeed and managed to delude some laymen of Kufa to follow him in rejecting Saeed's governorship and asking Uthman to replace him. In reality, Saeed was just another governor whom the Kufans opposed and sought to have dismissed. The same had happened to Saad ibn Abi Waqqas, Al-Walid ibn Uqba, and others. The request to dismiss him was connected to a revolt wherein this rabble had carried weapons, creating a critical moment in the history of Kufa, if not the history of the whole Islamic State. This riot, however, was not the real reason for seeking Saeed's dismissal. The real reason was that times had changed, and so had people. They had been influenced by those who incited turmoil and rebellion against Usman bin Affan himself, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Uthman ordered Abu Musa al-Ash'ari to be appointed as the governor of Kufa in place of Saeed ibn al-As. As per the request of some of the Kufans, Abu Musa initiated his new position with a orator before the people. O people, do not become divided over something like this, and do not do anything like that again. Hold on to unity and obedience, and beware of haste. Have patience, and it will be as if you were standing before a leader. They said, pray with us then. However, he said, not until you pledge to hear and obey Uthman ibn Affan. They declared, we shall hear and obey Uthman. Uthman also wrote to the people of Kufa, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most compassionate, I have put the one you chose in charge of you and have relieved you of Saeed, by Allah, I shall give my honor in your hands, along with my utmost patience, and do whatever I can to rectify your affairs. Do not refrain from asking him for anything you want, as long as it does not involve disobedience to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. Nor should you stay silent about anything you dislike about him, if that does not entail disobedience to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, without asking him to relieve you of it when you wish, or when you so wish. I will come there to discuss with him, lest you should have something concrete against me. Excuse me. So, when you wish, I will come there to discuss him, lest you should have something concrete against me. So these are just deep orators again that we talked about. Abu Musa remained in office until Uthman was martyred. We can conclude that Kufa had 5 governors in the era of Uthman bin Affan, beginning with Al-Mughira ibn Shu'ba and ending with Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Numerous events which had a direct effect on the entire Muslim state took place during the rule of each of these 5. The turmoil in Kufa intensified, and its people became known for overthrowing their governors and rejecting them no matter how much they tried to earn their pleasure. Some of these Kufans also played a leading role in Uthman's assassination itself. It is worth mentioning that Kufa also had some sub-regions such as Tabaristan, Azerbaijan, and other regions north of Persia. This connection is supported by the fact that the governors of Kufa, among them Saeed ibn al-As, were the ones leading the conquests that were made from these regions, and were those who disciplined their people when they were disobedient. These regions also had a considerable role in turmoil alongside the people of Kufa. From this presentation of the Muslim provinces in Osman's era, we can conclude that there were regions that remained stable throughout the Caliphate, such as the Arab regions of Bahrain, Yemen, Mecca, Taif, and Syria. Basra remained busy with conquests under Abdullah ibn Amir. Egypt and Kufa became unstable towards the end of the Khalifa. This unrest developed into turmoil, and instead of fighting the enemies of Islam, some of the people of Egypt and Kufa attacked Medina and martyred Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan. The rights and responsibility of Uthman's governors, 16.1, chapter 16, his policies regarding his governors. For 1 full year after assuming the position of Caliph, Uthman retained the governors appointed by Umar radiallahu anhu. After that, he began to replace them and dictated by his authority and what he deemed best for the Muslimin. Uthman often consulted the companions when deciding how to deal with his governors. If he considered it to be in the best interest of the Muslimin, he combined some regions with others. This means that each region did not always have a separate governor. Bahrain was combined with Basra, and some regions of Syria were connected either because a governor had passed away or because he had submitted his resignations. Usman would admonish his governors on a regular basis, instructing them to be juster and merciful to the people. He drew up political guidelines which his governors were obliged to follow. It was their duty to give the Muslimin their due rights and to command them to fulfill their obligations. The same was supposed to be done with the non-Muslim citizens. The governors were ordered to be faithful even with the enemy, and to maintain justice at all times. Collecting money was never to be their primary goal. As we have mentioned before, Uthman would write special instructions to his employees regarding current events that concerned their provinces. This was in addition to his public message, which issued specific orders to everyone. Among these orders was that everyone should read the copies of the Quran that were written and testified to by a group of the companions in Al-Madinah. Uthman was also eager to see his rulers compete with each other in conquering new regions. He wrote to Abdullah ibn Amir in Basra and Saeed ibn al-As in Kufa, saying, whichever of you two gets to Khurasan first will be its ruler. This led ibn Amr to conquer Khorasan and Saeed ibn al-As to conquer Tabaristan. Sometimes he would stipulate conditions for his governors to ensure that they worked for the best interests of the Muslimin. For example, when Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan wrote to him in attempting to make going to Cyprus by sea or attempted to make going to Cyprus by sea seem like an easy matter, he replied to him that he should go only if he was ready to take his wife with him. 16.2 Methods of Supervision. Uthman followed a number of procedures in supervising his governors and maintained a record of their matters following are performing the Hajj. He was keen to perform the Hajj himself, and this gave him the opportunity to meet other pilgrims. He would listen to their complaints and find out if any of his governors had wronged them. Each year he would write to his governors in every region, telling them to join him and to bring along anyone who was complaining. The Caliph had been holding these meetings with his governors and people every year since Umar radiallahu anhu's time. 16.2.2 Questioning those who came from other regions. This was one of the easiest ways of learning about the governors. It hardly required any effort from the Caliph and needed no prior arrangements. The four Caliphs were known for asking those who had arrived in the city about their governors. The three Caliphs who were in Al-Madinah found this quite helpful due to the great number of visitors, especially in the Hajj season. 16.2.3 Receiving letters from the residents of different regions. People from different regions would send letters to Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan detailing their complaints. He received letters from the people of Kufa, Egypt and Syria, and after reading them he took prompt action to solve their problems. 16.2.4 Sending the inspectors to various regions. He sent inspectors to certain regions to find out their current state to discover whether their governors were oppressive. These inspectors would return with detailed reports about the governors. Among the men sent to various regions were Ammar ibn Yasir, Muhammad ibn Maslama, who was sent to Kufa. Ammar was sent to Egypt, Osama ibn Zayd to Basra, and Abdullah ibn Umar to Syria. 16.2.5 Traveling to different regions. As we mentioned, Uthman would visit Mecca during the Hajj and get acquainted with people's affairs. He would meet his governors and pilgrims from various regions and ask them about the latest news. Instructing governors to send delegations to him for questioning. The righteously guided Caliphs would often order their governors to send them a delegation of people from their provinces so that he could question them. It is known that Umar, Uthman and Ali did this repeatedly, though Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was too busy with administering the jihad. Furthermore, the short duration of his Khalifa did not allow this. 16.2.7 Summoning the governors and asking them about their lands. This was a well-known method in the time of the four righteously guided Caliph. Uthman communicated with his governors on a regular basis regarding various state affairs. Among the most significant exchanges between them was the meeting held by Uthman with his governors in Al-Madinah. The rulers of Basra, Kufa, Syria, Egypt and other regions were called together with the senior companions. They discussed the signs of turmoil that had begun to appear, and they listened as each governor offered his opinion and proposed solutions. 16.2.8 Exchanging letters with the governors. He used to order the governors to report to him about the condition of their people in their regions. This method was well known in the times of the other three Caliphs as well. The aforementioned methods were some of the most significant ones used by Uthman to supervise his governors. He was very concerned about their fulfillment of their duties, and he would take disciplinary actions as soon as he heard that they had broken any laws. If one of them was proven to have committed a major violation, he would punish him regardless of how well he thought of him. An example of this in the case of Walid ibn Uqba, who was lashed for drinking wine once he was proven guilty, regardless of whether or not the witnesses were truthful. He was then dismissed from the governorship of Kufa. Uthman would write to people of different regions. Whenever a new governor was appointed for them, he would instruct them to treat him well, just as he would have told the governor to treat the people well. He would also give a written advice to the general public of these regions and thereby help the governors in facilitating public matters. For example, he stated in one letter, I have ordered my governors to come to me during the Hajj, and ever since I have become the Khalifa, I have instructed my nation to command what is right and forbid the wrong. Hence, if any matter is brought against me or any of my governors, I shall give the plaintiffs their right. Neither I nor any of my family entitled to more than the people. In reality, the rights of people come first. Thus, those who claim they have been beaten or reviled, in secret, let them come for Hajj and take their rights, wherever they may be, whether with me or my governors. Optionally, they can give charity by forgiving the oppressor, which is an act of charity, for Allah Jalla Jalaluhu rewards the charitable. When this was read in different regions, people were moved to tears and invoked Allah Jalla Jalaluhu for Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan. Inshallah, we will stop here. We're getting really close to, again, the turmoil section. And we know that this is the turmoil that took the life, or that claimed the life of Sayyidina Uthman bin Affan. We're stopping on page number 327. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وتبارك اسم ربك وتعالى جدك ولا إله غيرك ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.